Joining me in the studio is Kate Divers. Last time we chatted was during the lockdown. Kate, of course, very involved with animals. And I think a lot of people have seen what you've done on social media. You've been highlighting the concerns here about puppy farming, if that's the right terminology, behavioural issues. And there's a massive, appears to be a massive problem over here on breeding and behavioural issues as well. Yeah. So over to you, what's going on?
So there's been a lot of incidences of people breeding over here and turning out huge volumes of puppies of varying breeds, with no consideration being given to how they're being raised, their genetics, or where they're then being homed onto. So they're then being placed into inappropriate homes for the issues that they have. We're seeing issues coming out in terms of their health, in terms of congenital issues, and also behavioural issues.
See, I don't think people realise that it was happening this close to home. We've all heard about Ireland and the issues that they've been having over there. Is this the same sort of thing? Are people over-producing these puppies and not enough checks and balances involved?
Absolutely. I mean, over here, there's pretty much no checks involved because they don't necessarily have to be registered with DEFA. There's, unfortunately, the MSPCA have no legal rights to go in and do any major kind of checks and check on the welfare of mum and pups.
So this is a Manx loophole, is it? I mean, has the UK got protection, or are we all in the same boat here?
We are further behind the UK, which is, they obviously updated their legislation a couple of years ago, which then meant that they were more protected, whereas over here we don't have that at all. You
get the final part of this whole process. Someone buys a puppy in good faith. Mm-hmm. Then the behavioural issues come about, do they, as they start to mature a bit, do they?
Absolutely. I mean, especially when they start to kind of hit 6 months plus, if there's when they hit that kind of hormonal maturity, that can bring a lot of issues out, especially if they've not been socialised with people or dogs in their initial upbringing. And because we're seeing pups that have been rehomed from 6 weeks up, they're kind of missing out on their integral development stage in terms of communication, which then presents issues later on in life.
People buy a dog off the internet, they probably haven't seen their pedigree, or if not a pedigree, met the parents. Is that important?
Yes, absolutely. It's one of those that unless you meet both parents, you don't know kind of what lineage your dog is coming from. If there's a reason why you can't meet both parents, you have to question it, because I mean, there is a case of breeding over here where one of the parents is aggressive. Nobody has ever met that parent because they are aggressive.
So you shouldn't be obviously breeding from an aggressive dog. I mean, this sounds almost obvious. This is animal cruelty in a weird way, which then plays out to the future owners, because they pick up the issues here.
Absolutely. And it's, I mean, I've only been doing this work privately since November, and the incidence of it that I'm seeing is just astronomical. And it's not just myself. There's other trainers and behaviourists out there that are also dealing with them.
Are we talking about one bad apple here?
No.
So it's more than one area, and in the Isle of Man it's actually happening as well. Because obviously when you buy them from across, you've got the usual issues there. So someone holds up a picture of this is the mum and dad. Don't take that as granted then?
No, because I could go on Google and pull up a picture. I could say, I'm breeding these Labradors, they're sat in my living room. Here's their pictures of their mum and dad. They could be stock photos that I've taken off somebody else's page.
How do we get this sorted? I mean, it's getting worse. And I feel for the animals, because they're obviously in a farming situation, are they? They're constantly getting pregnant, and that can't be good.
It's not good for them, and actually the damage that we're seeing to the parent animals that are then being, once they're of no use to the breeders, they're then being rehomed, some of them. So of course they're then damaged because they've never been socialised, they've never been allowed out to kind of mix with people or anything until they're of no use.
So they've got really behavioural issues, that alone. They're not interacting with human beings much. I mean, money must be the root cause of all this. How much do people pay? They don't just give these puppies away, do they?
No, and the prices can vary. I mean, we're talking anywhere from £500 to £1,000 plus.
You're kidding? Wow.
Yeah.
And would they be technically getting a pedigree for that sort of money, or is that just a pup with no background?
It's just a pup with no background. Wow. There was a litter last year that was sold as being one breed, and then as they grew and developed, ended up being a crossbreed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which in itself is not what you advertised in the first place. Are you putting pressure on anyone for this law changing?
We're working. I've been working with some other trainers and behaviourists behind the scenes. We have been approaching the MSPCA to keep them update of what we're finding, because obviously they're trying to build cases so that they can take it forward. We've been putting more information into DEFA, and we've also been contacting some of the MHKs to see what they're going to do about legislation change, because obviously the last proposed change of bill, which was farcical to be honest, was thrown out at the first reading and didn't make it any further.
Yeah, that didn't have much...
No.
Okay. I think it's important that you get very emotional on this one, and I know it's dear to your heart, and people can see your videos. Where's the best places to catch you and what you've been saying in a wider context?
So I've got a Facebook group called Ruff Mutts, which is RUFFMUTTS. And if people are concerned, they can always email me, which is kate@ruffmutts.net.